The following program is presented by the HTM Podcast Network.
Good evening, everybody. This is Robyn Nelson with another edition of Wrestle Popcast, and my guest tonight is Bryan Idol. How's it going, Bryan?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on. It's good to be there. I want to start out by saying real quick, I would like to give a congratulations to one of my students, Tristan Ty. I just signed with MLW today. That's Major League Wrestling on BN Sports Network, and a lot of big name guys in there like Teddy Hart, David Hart Smith. I don't know, they got a ton of guys. Pentagon, Phoenix, they got all these guys over there.
Hey, don't forget Brian Pillman.
Oh, Brian Pillman, yeah, he's part of the Hart Foundation deal too, yeah.
That's pretty good. Let's talk about your promotion, Fighting the World Wrestling. You're the owner and trainer as well.
Yeah, I train at one of the schools, but yeah, I pretty much oversee the whole thing. And yeah, it's been around almost 11, 12 years, I forget. And we've definitely run very big shows. I would say, at one time we were probably the largest in all of New York, probably back about 6 or 7 years ago. But ultimately, I shifted it into a direction where it was more about the students of the academies. At one point, we had 4 academies. We're at 2 right now. And, once I put the focus on them, it kind of changed the dynamic of the company a little bit. And, maybe to some of the fans, it was in a worse direction because, they weren't getting, we used to bring in a lot of the top names on the independents as well as legends. And, once we started focusing on the students, I'd say it changed to, we didn't do a lot of that, and I gave these guys a chance to, kind of cut their teeth and get things going. And, the payoff there was that what I know is a classic example of what I just told you today about Tristan being signed to MLW is, we brought along a lot of students that have gone on to do unbelievable things, and, we gave them the venue for it. So, that's what I realized pretty early on in the company was one of my goals for everybody. So, and it's the same for me. Things happen for me in real time, so it's about us, not about, bringing in 20 name guys or 20 legends. It's just not what we're looking to do.
I totally agree with you, too. That's why I liked to go to some indie promotions. I like to go to indie promotions where they have their own roster, and then once in a while maybe have a legend or a big star in. But most of the time, I'd rather see the roster of that promotion, grow within the company and see how far they go as superstars in the ring.
Right. And, I can understand people's other point of view is, they don't want to come see guys that they perceive to be no-name guys, and so I understand the negative side of it, but I agree. If you're in the know and you kind of appreciate wrestling as a whole, it's easy to see when there's an original roster. But that whole thing is subject to relative to where you are in the country or which promotion within a state it is, because you can get some terrible ones where it's Beerswell and Bart versus Johnny Nobody in a Falls Count Anywhere match, over a stack of pancakes. But, we try not to do that. We try to make it at least entertaining and good. And I try to only put people out there that at least can pass it off as their belonging in wrestling. So, but like I said, I could see how it goes the other way too sometimes. But yeah, I think if you're in the know, it's a lot more enjoyable to see people coming up than it is to just see the same old thing over and over.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. There's a promotion here where I live at, Future Great Wrestling over here in Hamilton, Ohio, outside of Cincinnati, which is run by Cody Hawk, and he's the same way too. He's just has so much great talent that he's trained over the years that have moved up and went to other places as well, like WWE, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling. I mean, he's trained a lot of guys from, Dean Ambrose, Eli Drake, Braxton Sutter, Sami Callihan, and also Shauna Reed, who's making her name up in the ranks of the indies as well.
Right.
And I like that because a lot of people don't realize these people you see at the indies, sooner or later, they're going to end up being, stars over at New Japan or Impact, Ring of Honor, MLW, and all that great stuff, too. A lot of people don't realize that either.
Right, exactly.
All right. Tell me a little bit about your time in Japan. What was your experience over in Japan? What was it like wrestling over there?
Well, I haven't talked much about it, so I'm saying I'll try to organize it a little bit. But I mean, basically, I went there with not a whole lot as far as bookings. Like, I had just enough to justify going there, and right from the start, it was just like it couldn't have gone any better. It couldn't have been any smoother. And it was like everywhere I went, I stood out, and I just, things just went in my favor. Like, I just had great matches, and just, a lot of, I just met a lot of the right people, and one thing kept leading to another, and I just kept getting on bigger and bigger shows, and like I said, just, the whole thing went so incredibly well that, I would say it definitely changed the dynamic of probably my whole career. And so, I mean, it's exciting. There was a lot of highlights there. I was on TV multiple times. Like, they have like news networks that are, a big deal, and they're dedicated. They have dedicated like newscasts to wrestling. So I appeared on a couple of those, and I was in there with Dan Severn was there for one of them. So it was pretty cool to be, put in this upper echelon. Like, here's me and Dan Severn, and we're the feature of the whole thing. And I'm sitting there, and I mean, that's Dan Severn. So he's obviously done a lot in MMA and even in pro wrestling. You have the NWA titles and this and that. So, I mean, it was really, really cool. And, I have, I'm in negotiations for some stuff over there, and, hopefully I'll have some cool stuff to talk about when that all goes down. But, like I said, for sure, I know that I definitely made a permanent place for myself in Japan. And, I mean, it's a good feeling because I feel like a lot of wrestlers can't say that they went to Japan and they tore it up and they know they're welcome and there's offers on the table. And so it's about as good. It went about as good as it could possibly go.
That's pretty good. So, did you also enjoy the culture over there as well?
Yes, I will tell you this. The food was amazing. It's different over there, man. It's very quiet. It's very clean. So in a lot of aspects, it's kind of cool because people aren't really up in your business. So, you kind of walk around and, I don't know, it's just not like being in the USA where everybody's, shoulder to shoulder and staring at you, or people there don't stare at you. They it's just not common to start talking to strangers. So, I mean, in some aspects, I guess it would seem maybe some people would be uncomfortable, but for me personally, I prefer all that. So I enjoyed the fact that it was kind of like I was on my own a lot when I was in public, and it was actually a really, really, really good feeling to have that kind of space and not feel like somebody's all up in my business. And like I said, I gotta say, I made some good friends there. One would be the legendary wrestler / actor Tiger Chung Lee, and I got to celebrate his birthday with him, and we hung out a few times. We trained over at a dojo together. So I thought this guy was doing well in Japan. He was doing main events with Hogan and Flair, and in America too. I mean, he had tons of matches with Savage and all these guys, but like I said, in America, it was he was he was a typical heel and having to put all these guys over or whatever. But in Japan, it was almost the other way around. So he's a big deal there. So it was really cool to felt good for him to like me enough to want to do that, you know.
That's pretty good. So what did you learn from him as well? Did he show you a few things in the ring?
I will tell you for a fact, Tiger Chung Lee taught me how to throw the best punch ever. I still don't think I could do it as good as him, but he throws a mean punch.
Oh, that's pretty wild. That would have had to been cool to learn that. You're probably like, wow.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And like, here's the thing about Tiger Chung Lee, 71 years old. This dude is still wrestling. And when I say wrestling, he's taking bumps. He's catching guys doing dives. Like, he's an animal. He's an animal. And I don't know how he does it. 71 years old, and he's like, dude walks, you know, he do a lot of walking over there. And, like, this guy's walking up and down stairs with me all day, you know, 2-3 miles, like, no problem. I mean, he's a rig. 71 years old, probably 6'3" and about, I don't know, 270 pounds, 280 pounds.
Oh, that's pretty wild, man. I give him props to be able to do that. He could probably kick a lot of guys' ass here in the States.
I think he would. I think, especially like a lot of the legends, though. Like, I think he would twist these legends up like pretzels, like, because like I know a lot of them, and some of them are in good shape still, but not at 71. They don't have that kind of size and power. Like, that dude, he's like, you know, he's really in good shape. And even funny enough, I just got to tell the story.
Okay.
Now that we're talking about him. So when I came back from Japan, one of the shows I was on during Mania Week, I ran into little Guido, you know.
Yeah.
So we're talking, and he's asking me about, you know, he's like, oh, you went to Japan? So I'm telling him, he's like, oh, cool. And then I was like, you know, I told him, I said, hey, you know, I made really good friends with Tiger Chung Lee. And, you know, he was super awesome there. And he looks at me with the most serious face, like too serious and, like, too confused. And he's like, Tiger Chung Lee. He's like, Tiger Chung Lee's dead. And so, like, I look at him, and for a second, I'm thinking he knows something I don't know. So I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, he's dead. And I'm like, well, when did you hear that? And then he's like, what do you mean? He's been dead for years. And I was like, dude, Tiger Chung Lee's not dead. So I had to sit there, and I was like, I pulled my phone out, and I had to Google, and I was like, look, he just wrestled the other day, dude. I'm, like, showing him pictures of Tiger Chung Lee wrestling. So I just thought that was hilarious.
Oh, that was, too. I bet his eyes dropped, and it'd be like this. You know, you could have went up to him and be like, hey, you want to see a punch I learned from as well? You want me to demonstrate it?
I know, that's what I was telling him. I was like, yo, check out this. I seriously did that. I was like, yo, he taught me how to throw a punch, did this, that. I was telling him everything. I was like, dude, we were eating ramen together. I was like, not dead. I was like, he's like, you sure it's Tiger Chung Lee? Then, like, you know, being it's wrestling, somewhere in his mind, I could see him, like, wondering if somebody didn't, like, hustle me. And it was, like, some fake guy pretending to be Tiger Chung Lee. Like, some dude was just taking me around like he was some wrestling legend, which totally cracked me up. Like, it was too funny when he was saying that. I couldn't stop laughing.
That's pretty funny as well. We also have a mutual friend, too. She just posted on Twitter for everyone to check out this podcast we're doing. She said, come in, check out this podcast with my boyfriend and best friend. And that's our friend Holly.
Yeah, well, not many girls could get away with saying that where I wouldn't probably refute it. But in her case, I will take that. Because she is very nice looking, and so I mean, if that's what she wants, that's just fine with me.
That's pretty good because she speaks highly of you, and she's really into you too, and I just think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, she's really cool. She's funny too.
Oh yeah, she always cracks me up. She sends me the most funniest stuff on the phone all the time. It's like, what are you thinking? Yeah, she's a great girl.
Plus, I will also add, she has a cool car. She sent me pictures of her car that she picked up recently, and it's pretty rad. So, you know, it's pretty rare. You got a good-looking girl like that with a badass car.
Yeah, and she's an outdoors woman too. You know, down out in the country.
Camping, yeah. She's a keeper for sure.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of her car as well. The Charger. It's a beautiful Charger, man.
Pretty sweet.
And speaking of,
pretty sweet car.
Yeah, and
I got a Corvette.
Yeah, tell me about your 79 Corvette and what got you into getting a 79 Corvette, and were you always into Corvettes growing up?
Not really. My father had one probably. I mean, this probably got me, like, to want it. Like, when I was, like, 16, my father had, like, a 77, and it was orange. And, I've driven cars before at that point. Like, I had a license at that point even. But I'm saying, like, I was driving cars when I was, like, 12. I had, like, older brothers and cousins. They let me drive their car. They didn't care. So, but I drove his car a few times, and it was pretty badass. And it was hard for me at the time because I was, like I said, 16. I couldn't really drive a stick shift car too well. So, but I had a lot of fun driving it. And, even though the car, those 77 Corvettes like his, didn't have a lot of power, but because it's a manual transmission, if you bang off the clutch, it'll burn the tires. So, just probably that was the first car I ever did that in. And I just remember my father getting pissed off. Like, he just looked at me like I was like, because it wasn't like I did it to be badass. I did it because I didn't know how to let off the clutch good. And but yeah, I always liked that car when he had it. And then it was like, my father passed away, whatever. That car went, it was gone or whatever. And then I was just to the point where, like, I knew I needed a new car. And, I was looking around, and I had a motorcycle, and I was like, I want to look at some old Corvettes. And then, so I started looking at old Corvettes. Then I started getting into them, and I was like, all right. And then, I found one that, I wanted one probably in black, like, but I wasn't set. Like, I was thinking about maybe blue or like an orange-ish, like the one he had. So I was like, all right, I'm down with any of these colors. And then I found a black one, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take this. So, and I actually got it, it was in good shape when I got it, but I fully restored it, so, and I did it pretty much myself, so it's pretty cool, man. I really like working on the car. I don't like when it breaks and I end up on the side of the road in the hot sun, but, because it doesn't matter how many, it's got a brand new motor, it's got a brand new transmission, it doesn't matter, something always breaks on it. But, the cool thing is you can always fix it, so it's never like, you're never stranded.
And it's pretty good as well. Speaking of your father as well, how supportive was he when you decided you wanted to become train and become a professional wrestler?
He knew I liked wrestling my whole life. He used to, some of the earliest memories I have are him, he used to take me to his buddy's house. He used to have, like, a illegal cable box. And, they'd be getting wasted. Like, I remember those days would start at, like, it would be like, say, the Royal Rumble. Yeah. It would be like 11 a.m. We'd be at the bar with him, me and my older brother, and we're, all of probably, I was maybe 5 years old, 6 years old, and my brother's like 10. And, we'd be, like, playing the shuffleboard bowling thing at the bar, those things. Yeah. I remember, I'd eat about 300 bags of chips and whatever, and my father and his buddies would be getting hammered at the bar smoking cartons of cigarettes, and then we'd end up at his buddy's house with one of the illegal cable boxes, and, like, they'd order us pizza and wings, and, like, by then they're just bombed because they've been there doing it all day, and then they weren't really into wrestling, but they would just get a kick out of it because, everybody's, like, they're kind of partying, and they're just watching us, and we're so pumped about it. So, like, he always knew I was into wrestling, and, those were funny memories, and, like, he died when I was, like, say 20, so he didn't get to see a whole lot. Like, I definitely showed him a few pro matches, but, like, back then I was, I was way small. I didn't look like a wrestler, and so I don't know. I wish it would be cool, if you could see what I look like now, like, I think he would take it a lot more seriously, but, he just thought it was, like, nonsense, like, he didn't hate it, but he was just not really that impressed by it, but I think he would be now.
That's pretty good as well. And then when you were trained as well too, you started off as a gimmick as Earl Cooter.
Right. Well, actually, that's not what I started off as. Believe it or not, man, my career has been endless. We're talking 20 years at this point. So, I did. That was like my first real gimmick with any success. And that came about because of I was wrestling in Jersey All Pro. Uh-huh. And they actually came up with it. And it was to, what happened was somebody had gotten hurt the night before a huge show, and they had nothing. And we're like, all right, we have this idea to try to, like, create something. And so the guy just looked at me, and he was like, you look kind of like a redneck. And I was like, all right, whatever. Because these are like very New York people. And God forbid you have long hair or a trucker hat, and to them your name might as well be Cletus. and that's pretty much what he said to me. And he was like, what's that show? My name is Earl, right? And I was like, hey, there you go, Earl. And then he was walking by me again 5 minutes later, and then he's like, Dukes of Hazzard. He was like, what was that goofy name? It was like a tow truck guy or whatever. He was like, oh, and I knew. I was like, Cooter Davenport. And he was like, that's it, dude, you're a real cooter. I was like, that's it, man.
Oh, that's pretty.
That was a guy named Johnny.
Hey, that's pretty.
He was the booker of Jersey All Pro.
Oh, that's pretty good. So what was it like to, wrestle over on the East Coast like Jersey and New York and all that? And how's the wrestling scene over there, and how diehard are the fans over there?
Well, the wrestling scene over there is probably the best in the country. I mean, people think it's fallen off in the last few years, but I don't really think so. I think pound for pound, you can pull all the best wrestlers in the country. They're usually pretty much the New York, New Jersey, Philly area is where most of them. I mean, Ohio counts too, I guess, but there's that area up there, Northeast, is probably the best in the whole country, and so I think that's good. As far as the fans, I mean, they're the most smart mark or the smart mark. So like, if you can get a reaction out of them, and on an indie level, or if you think that's what you want to do, then if you can get it there, then you can get it anywhere. So, in that regard, they're cool. But I don't think that they're the friendliest or most accepting, because they will definitely get on you about stuff they don't like, and they'll definitely, bust your balls out there. Whereas, when you do places like Georgia and Tennessee and, a lot of the Midwest, it's a lot different. They're very grateful right from the start. And I would say, if you ask me overall, in the world so far, my experience, I would say the most appreciative fans are probably Japan, but I think the biggest, most intense fans are up in the Nova Scotia area.
Oh, I totally agree with you. In Canada, Canada has a lot of great wrestling and great athletes, and the fans, man, they're appreciated and towards wrestling.
It's a good mix of respect and enthusiasm. Like those crowds are super live. Like, they go crazy. So it's definitely, I always loved. For a minute there, I was like a household name up in the Nova Scotia, the Maritimes, and I love every minute of it. I can't wait to go back there. It's been too long.
So, since you've been up to Canada wrestling in the Maritimes as well, have you ever thought about going over to Smash Wrestling or Super Kicked?
I think I was supposed to do something with Smash. I think but I think they were doing something with Kaiju Big Battle, and I think I was gonna do a Kaiju match, and I was gonna do a Smash match, and honestly, I missed the plane. I overslept, and I remember waking up, and I was like, it's rare that I ever would do that, but I was like, shit, I missed it, and there was just no other flights, and I was like, whatever. And I remember texting Randy from Kaiju, and I was like, really sorry, dude. Don't worry about it. And I was like, so that was the end of that. So I don't think I ever inquired about it, because I was I can't remember if it was Smash or Super Kick. It was one of them. It was one of those two that was running the show with them. And I just, like I said, after that, I was like, I didn't bother contacting anybody, because they probably would think I was unreliable anyway, because I missed the plane, which is on me. So that's why I haven't wrestled there.
Oh, that's pretty cool as well. I saw a match with you as well. You were in there with another wrestler I like as well, Fasid the Neon Ninja. What's it like to get in a ring with him?
What was that, Joey Janela Spring Break?
Yep.
Yeah, it was all right, man. He's got a really cool style. I like his. I like his gimmick. I like the spray paint and the colors, and he's got an awesome manager. He's fun to work with. I mean, I think we didn't get to do a whole lot. It was like one spot, and then spring break clusterfuck match.
I love how you say that. That's clever. That's something I would say.
Well, no, that's what it's called.
I know.
It's called the clusterfuck, spring break clusterfuck.
I know, right? You've also been in the ring with a lot of legends as well, from Goldust, Mick Foley, Terry Funk,
Yeah.
Just Incredible, Balls Mahoney, and Sabu. So, of all those guys you got in the ring, who'd you learn most from, and who gave you the fight for your life?
Who did I learn the most from? Probably Jake the Snake. I mean, he'll teach you when you're in the ring, and it's funny because he's got that voice, man. When when you're in the ring with him and he's like yelling shit at you, and he's like, it's just like, come here, it's just too funny. Like, get the hell over here. It makes me laugh. Like, I used to die laughing. I remember one time he was trying to take home a match early. And I think most people, I knew him very well at this point.
Yeah.
I think most people, most indie guys would be shitting their pants when Jake the Snake's telling you to take it home. And it was funny because I completely ignored him, and I was like, "Shut up!" I was like, "We're not doing that." It just made me laugh so much. And he's cursing at me, "Fuck you!" It was pretty funny. But yeah, actually, Balls a lot. Was super helpful to me and super encouraging. He early, it wasn't really early in my career because, like I said, I had wrestled previously, and then I kind of left, and I kind of came back. And, I was still only in my, mid-20s, and Balls, he, like I said, he gave me a lot of, I don't know the word, I guess, not courage, but, you know what I mean? It made me feel I don't know, I can't think of the word I'm looking for here, but he made me feel like I could do very well at this, and kind of, would nudge me in the right direction with, what I should be doing in the ring and this and that. So he was really helpful like that.
Hey, that's pretty good as well. I mean, I always enjoyed watching him in the ring as too. And another cool thing I like about you as well, you bring in a unique approach in the ring as well. I just like your style and how you go by it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I just try to look at it I'm so torn in the middle. It's like I don't know. I'm just confused by my own mindset. But obviously, I want to approach it it's a fight. But it's I don't know, man. I just feel naturally I have this. When it happens in the moment, I always feel if you're what do you feel like? I always feel like Rocky Balboa, in Rocky 3 or 4, where I'm so overwhelmed and whatever. But when I'm on top, when I'm in control, I'm flying high. But then, like I said, there's just this. I always feel there's this when I wrestle matches, there's this element of anything can happen, good or bad. So it's weird, but that's I don't know how to explain it, but that's the vibe I feel is always happening, that's coming out of me while I'm having matches. And like I said, some people like it, some people don't, but I think it's cool. So
hey, it's all good for me as well. You also had a WWE Tryout as well. What was that like?
Oh yeah, I did. It's about a year ago, maybe a little more. But I mean, it felt good. It felt good to get the chance after all these years of being on the indies and wrestling all these other people that got signed, and knowing in my heart that I'm on the same level as them. And then you kind of wait for that validation. Not that you really need it, but it's nice when it comes. And so it was good to get that opportunity. And it was a very, I would say it was a grueling physical experience, but I was totally prepared for it. And I think, like I said, I mean, I don't know what the measurables are, but I would be pretty confident that I was in the top percentage at that tryout, and then maybe beyond that, because I went there in peak physical condition, and I was ready for anything, and they couldn't, you know what I mean? You couldn't make me quit if you tried. Not that, I mean, they kind of did. They didn't try to make you quit, but they definitely made it hard. They want to see who's going to give it their all. And I mean, like I said, I was in a total position where I actually expected it to feel worse worse, and I was pretty, I was like, I can handle this. It wasn't that bad. But, I mean, the cool thing about that, though, is everybody there was really respectful and kind of, for them evaluating you while it's happening, they also give you a lot of pointers and a lot of real talk about, what wrestling is, which is cool. I think it was good for everybody to hear that, and, I don't think they have to do that. It was cool that some of these guys like Idol and them go out of their way and Bobby Brookside, and they tell you a lot, that a lot extra of that, they don't have to mention, where they could just say, hey, do these rolls, hit these ropes, do this, you know what I mean? Instead, they're telling you what makes a good match and what makes a good wrestler. And so, it was cool. And overall, the place is amazing. I told somebody else this before. It's like the equivalent of Professor X's School for the Gifted. It's like there's everything there you need to be a superhero. You just have to go to class, and you got to learn, and you got to do this, and in the end, you'll be amazing. And you can see they definitely have that structure there. So, I mean, that's obviously why they can produce a lot of very talented guys on NXT and stuff like that.
You also wrestled over in Evolve as well. That's another great promotion as well. What was one of your favorite match over in Evolve?
Yeah, like I said, I've been a part of that. I was a part of WWN for. I'm still kind of there, so looking at like 6.5, 7 years, I think, at this point. And if you were like, my favorite person to work with there is I like Jody Christopherson, which he's since retired. His father was super famous actor Chris Christopherson.
Wow.
Yeah, and so best friends with Johnny Cash and all that. It's pretty cool. And Jody was, I say was, he's not dead. He's retired, but he was the coolest when he was out there, man. Like, a lot of fun, sweetheart of a guy, totally no ego, like, just and could wrestle his ass off. He was actually in NXT, Jody. He was signed for a while, and he was really good. And I always liked, we did a couple tag matches together and Evolve against like Team Tremendous. Like, I like that. Those are probably my favorites.
That's pretty good as well. And out of your 20-year career in the ring as well, have you had any regrets?
I mean, yeah, maybe that I didn't, maybe I could have done a little more, a little faster. I mean, whether it was because, I was lazy or just unaware. But, I mean, I'm happy where I'm at now, but I'm saying I probably could have done it a few years earlier.
That's pretty good as well. And another thing you like to do when you're not in the ring as well, you love to find fun places to eat. So are you like a big foodie? You don't look like a foodie at all. I mean, you just have that awesome chiseled.
Looks are deceiving, bro, because you ever see like Man vs. Food?
Yeah.
I'll beat that guy. I would crush that guy. Like, I watch sometimes and I'm like laughing. I'm like, yo, this guy can't eat this. I'm like, dude, I would, like, put it this way, man. When I order a pizza, I'll eat, like, if you said, okay, like a large pizza, like a Domino's pizza or a Little Caesars pizza, I could eat 2 of those in one sitting.
Wow. And it doesn't even look like it.
I'll crush like 2 of those, no problem. And like a 2-liter bottle of Coke. Like, it doesn't even, that's nothing. So like, when it comes to eating, man, like, I always, like, when you work out a lot, man, you can get away with it. And it actually makes you eat more. So I love, I got my spots around, I live in the Tampa area, so I got my spots around here where, when I don't do it every day, but when I'm going to go out and I'm going to eat, I know where I'm going to go pick out. And, like, I got my go-to places. But I always love finding new ones, like, I love, a huge fan of, like, roadside barbecues. Like, you go past these weird places, and they got funny signs, and it'll say things like best barbecue in Florida. And, right there, I got to check it out. So.
Hey, that's pretty cool as well. I have a lot of friends that live in the Tampa area too, and when I go out there, I'm gonna have to look you up, and I'm gonna have to challenge you and see you can eat a large pizza quicker.
I will crush it. Like, that's, like, not even, I'm serious, dude. Like, you'll be, like, I eat so fast, like, when I eat, too, like, it's kind of gross. like, I can put down, I mean, I've been doing it for years, man. I don't know. Like, I love eating, man. Like, and I guess I'm a binge eater. I don't know, like, because I don't do it every day. But, like, if I'm gonna, like, normally I have a very strict diet, but when it's time to, like, have a cheat meal, like, like I said, you see The Rock puts out pictures like that where he's doing crazy things, and like I said, I'd say I'm somewhere on par with that.
Hey, that's pretty good as well. And another thing is, I also heard a story. Do you have a Liberace picture hanging in your living room?
I have a gigantic Liberace portrait. It is large. It's I don't know the dimensions, but it's very large. It is like so. I have there's like a wood shelf that goes across my whole living room wall, and at the top of it there is a portrait in a gold frame of Liberace.
Wow.
Yeah, it exists there, and it's pretty ridiculous.
Hey, what got you in getting that picture? And are you like a Liberace fan of his music?
First of all, Liberace is a phenomenal piano player, or was a phenomenal piano player. I don't know if you saw the movie.
Yeah, I did. Michael Douglas.
Oh, it was so good, man. So good. How could you not be a fan of Liberace? It was crazy. And, I think a lot of people miss, too. He had a lot of pop culture involvement. Like, he was very close with, I know everybody hates him now, but like Michael Jackson, even WWE, he was appeared at, was it WrestleMania 2, 3? I can't remember.
I think it was 2. I may be wrong.
Yeah, so I'm saying. So, Liberace's cool, man. He's, and sometimes as a little bit of a joke to myself, before the FTW shows, I will play Liberace live over the PA system, when the doors are opening, and which is also really funny because on these live cuts, he'll be talking about, and he's got that voice, and he'll be like, well, I used to wear these clothes for my older brother, and he's like telling these stories, and so you see people walking in the room, and they're almost looking around, like, where's the guy with the microphone that's telling you this story? So I just die laughing while it's happening. So
if you got a chance to meet Liberace when if he was still alive, what would you ask him?
Dude, that is a bottomless question. I don't know, man. I love Liberace's rings. I'll tell you that. I'd probably ask him about his rings, dude. Like, he had a couple of those cool, like, piano rings. And I mean, just his piano. And like, he was so, like, he was so badass with his pianos. Like, even, what was it, the Emmys, or not Emmys, Grammys, I think it was, when Cardi B played. I think it was Cardi B. She was laying all over Liberace. So it was Liberace's piano, his actual piano, that was out there in the performance.
Oh, that's pretty wild. Have you ever thought about going over to Vegas to go visit his underground house?
I may actually be there next week, my friend.
Oh, really? You're a wrestling...
Funny you should ask. I'm going to be out in L.A., and there has been talk of the fact that maybe I will check out the Liberace Museum, as they call it, out in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And if you're in Las Vegas, Nevada, you can stop by and say hello to Jake the Snake and Sin Boldy, because they got a wrestling school out there as well.
Yeah, no, I know him very well. I don't know if Jake's living over there right now. I thought he was back in Atlanta. I don't know. I lose track. He's always in there, Atlanta, Texas, somewhere around. So I will shoot him a text, and he'll probably tell me he doesn't want to see me, but I will try to hit him up. And Sin's really cool too. He's a great guy.
Yeah, Sin's a great guy. And when you finally go visit Liberace's place and all that, you better post pictures, man. I want to get a good chuckle.
Definitely will. And you want to know the insane part, though, dude? So here's what I can already tell you. I called there, and they are already sold out.
Wow.
I'm trying to figure out a way. I'm like, how the hell is this thing sold out on a Monday? So weasel my way into the Liberace Museum.
Hey, that'd be pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing some pictures as well. I'm also.
I don't know if I'm gonna drop my star power. I'm gonna be like, I don't know if you know, but I'm Bryan Idol, and I wrestle for Evolve Wrestling, and I wrestled the Hardy Boys once, and I'm also popular in Japan and was on TV with Dan Severn. Maybe you could just let me in the museum for 5 minutes for Mr. I'd like to see Mr. Lee's pianos.
Oh, that'd be pretty wild as well. How'd you come up with Bryan Idol? Was there like a story to that?
There is a great story to that, by the way.
Okay.
Probably a career-defining moment / there's not many things that make me say like, oh, it was an honor, or I mean, there are things, but just I'm not one of these dudes where everything is like, oh, you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Oh, so amazing. So basically, the thing is, like, Earl Cooter was a redneck gimmick. It was very Joe Dirt.
Yeah.
And I played the character very well because 90% of pro wrestling, I'm talking about the wrestlers included, I think they didn't realize. Like, I don't know if you know, but in real life, I'm actually a professional model, a professional wrestler, and an actor. Like, these are my actual, I don't work at Arby's or Starbucks or wherever, Best Buy, I don't work in Verizon. That's my job. It's been my job for a lot of years. And, I just don't think people realize, because I was doing this redneck thing, and, here I am coming with my hair all ratty, crappy looking gear on purpose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Totally playing the character. I remember days where I would do wrestling shows, I wouldn't brush my teeth. You know what I mean? Just to make my teeth look bad. Like, I was doing anything I could. You know what I mean? I'd smear peanut butter on my face. I'd pencil in my beard. So I really played the character, and I think so many people believed it that, nobody would think anything of it. And then, I started realizing, look, there's only so far to go with this, especially after, and not especially after, but, TNA did steal, they did try to actually steal my intellectual property of Earl Cooter.
Yeah.
And, after, Cody Deaner had done that, and they were calling him Cooter and whatever, I just realized, it was about as far as it could go. So anyway, I started changing my look, and I stopped wearing this weird singlet, and I started wearing trunks. I started getting in really, really good shape and changing my whole deal. And it wasn't until, and here's where I'm getting at, that I've been your ear off, but it wasn't until a show in Queens, New York, where Joey Styles was standing there. And here's what he said to me.
Okay.
So the show hasn't started yet, and for once, I'm in the middle of, like I said, I was changing my look, not the name, just the look.
Yeah.
And I had showed up at the show wearing what I would wear in real life, so here I am with, these kind of cool skinny jeans or whatever you want to call them, and, a tight black shirt.
Yeah.
And you can see I'm built, I got my hair actually styled, and I got a hot girl with me, and I walk in, and Joey Styles, who had just hung out with me, a couple weeks before it evolved, when I'm in the middle of a crazy day over there, and he saw me after the show, so I was wearing I think I was wearing the tracksuit that they give you and this and that, so I just looked like shit anyway. So now he sees me all dressed up, and he double takes at me, and he's like, he's like Cooter, and I was like, yeah. He's like, oh man, I didn't even recognize you. And then he's looking at me, and he was like, man, I didn't even realize you were a wrestler last time we met. He's like, I thought you were I didn't know what you were. He's like, I just thought you were one of these dudes that was in production or a wrestler. And I was like, oh really? And he was like, yeah. He's like, you look great, dude. And he's like, look at you, got the hottest girl here with you. He's like, you're dressed cool. He's like, what? He's like, why do you use this name? And I was like, actually, man, I've been thinking about changing it, but I'm just known as this, and I've traveled, various parts of the world like this. So it's hard to just, you know what I mean? It's hard to just say, oh, I'm going to abandon the name. And he was like, yeah, but maybe you should. He was like, why don't you try it tonight? So I was like, really? You're thinking? And dude, Joey Styles to me is, I guess you put, every there's, Gorilla Monsoon, there's Bobby Heenan, in that era, and maybe Jesse the Body, and then you go into the 90s, and there's Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, and then I think, like I said, a close one behind that is Joey Styles. You know what I mean? The guy was the voice man, it's like just something that's like money, like something that's like, it's like it just kind of shows who you are. And that day, what he came up with, which is simple enough, and he's like, well, it's simple. He's like, but whatever, let's just try it on and see how it feels. So I came out as Brian Cash, and I wrestled actually Little Vito that day as Brian Cash. And then obviously there's a million wrestlers on the indies using the name Cash, and I realized that, and I was like pretty quickly. So then I changed it to Brian Clash, and then it just, something didn't feel right about it or whatever. And I don't know, man, I kind of just kept sitting there, and then it just hit me like a lightning bolt, and then I became, I was like, all right, it's Bryan Idol, the end, and I won't be changing my name anymore.
Hey, it's perfectly on you as well. And speaking of modeling and acting, how'd you get into that? Were you doing that way before professional wrestling, or were you did that first and then you started wrestling?
Well, like I started wrestling when I was 16, man, and so during that time, I mean, I was in bands too, like, and I was in a pretty popular band, like in New York City, and we used to play all big places and stuff. So that kind of led to making a couple connections and meeting some people. And I used to have a couple celebrity friends, and they would introduce me to people. And I mean, a lot of it was like a slow build up, like I would get a gig here, get a gig there, but I wouldn't really consider it a living, and like I was kind of doing other stuff, and I was wrestling, and like so like I was kind of like finding my way still, but it wasn't, that was the start of it. I actually built some resume, and then like one of the bigger things I had done was like back when they were doing the Wrestler movie in like 2008.
Yeah,
I ended up in that, and I was like I was pretty involved in the pre-production. So, like I said, I did more stuff like that. Then, like, because of that, I picked up an IKEA commercial, and I did that. And then, like, again, like I said, then wrestling started really picking up for me. And then I was like, all right, I'm just doing this. So I was doing wrestling, kind of stepped away from the acting stuff and whatever. And then a few years ago, I was like, I mean, not that wrestling slowed down, because it definitely did. And I was that was probably my, when I was starting to really get into the WWN stuff, which was elevating my career. So things were moving forward, but I just found myself with a little bit more time in the day-to-day, and I said, well, why not, see if anybody's interested in me. So, I signed with one agent, and then I ended up signing with another one, so I got 3 agents, and I've done, I'm pretty disappointed. I got a part in a movie that was like a horror movie that was being directed by Richard Grieco.
Richard Grieco.
That's what I'm saying, dude, Richard Grieco. And I was so pumped about it. And I don't know what happened. It fell apart. And I had a pretty good role in the movie. And I was super excited about it. I had problems finding. They wanted to film it in this old hotel, then it didn't work out, and then they were trying to find something like it, and they couldn't find anything like it, and now a year has gone by, and I haven't heard anything, so I'm going to assume that that's dead in the water, and it's a shame, because I really wanted to work with Richard Grieco, and, but like I said, I got a bunch of stuff in the works as far as that, and I've almost landed on a couple of TV shows. Hopefully, I could see something like that happening soon. Oh,
I can see it. You got the look for it. I mean, you really do. You're a handsome guy, man. You would have no problem landing a role on a TV show or movie at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. I appreciate you saying it. But, like I said, there's when it comes to entertainment, man, in all honesty, and I mean, maybe a lot of people don't say the truth about it, but it's like it's a fine line. It's sometimes like one, it could go one way, and you have 1,000 bookings, and you're a megastar, and you're the hottest new thing, or you could just sit on the other side of that, and it doesn't mean you could be the next big guy, but you just that shot hasn't come along. So I just think I'm not saying it's either or, but I'm saying it's just. That's how entertainment is. So I got a couple of things that I'm in talks with. I mean, but basically, I'm all over the place right now, man. Between traveling traveling and wrestling, and like I said, I know I'm going back to Japan. So I mean, I got my hands.
It's pretty.
Stay in shape and lead a normal life is enough to occupy my time. And you know, the cool thing is, I'm lucky. I don't really need the money, and you know, so I'm able to pick and choose what I need to do and what's best for me.
And it's pretty good as well, especially mentioned Richard Grieco. At least we know who he is, you know, from the 21 Jump Street, and he had his own show, Booker. It's so funny how you mentioned that, because today a lot of people wouldn't even know who Richard Grieco was.
Unless you're a fan of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, probably not. He did make an appearance on there. He was featured prominently in an episode, which was a great episode. But yeah, a lot of today's youth may not know who Richard Grieco was. So basically, if you sum it up fast, you're like, well, you know, he was like Johnny Depp, except he didn't hit like Johnny Depp's, you know, fame status.
Hey, did you?
But originally, he was basically the other Johnny Depp.
Oh, he was, and it didn't work out because he started on 21 Jump Street, and then they gave him a show, Booker, which didn't last long.
He was in a lot of cool movies. Richard Grieco was in If Looks Could Kill. You remember that movie?
Yeah, with him and Linda Hunt, about where he was mistaken for a spy with a sexy Gabrielle Anwar.
Good movie, right? That was such a good movie.
That was a great movie.
Movies I watched as a kid all the time. That was a skip school movie for sure.
Oh, I enjoyed watching that too. I thought it was just so great. Some of the stuff he did, you know, especially the scene where he was in that hotel suite with that lady, that sexy woman that was trying to kill him, and he thought he was going to get lucky. It was funny.
Yeah, no, great movie.
And
yeah, Richard Grieco, he had some hits, man.
Yeah, he did. He had some good movies as well. When you were like working in production of The Wrestler, did you get the chance to talk to Mickey Rourke?
I got a chance to show him how to take bumps.
Really? What was that like?
There was another dude. They had actually a mini, you know, like a low boy ring. It was inside, like Protozoa Studios that's Darren Aronofsky's, at least what it used to be called.
Yeah.
He's probably been sued a gajillion times, so I'm sure he changed the name. But Protozoa Films or Studios, whatever it was called, was actually in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg area, and it was just a warehouse. You know, like a multi-floor warehouse. And when I say warehouse, not even really a warehouse because it wasn't large.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically like an office building. And somewhere in that second floor, they had you would go in, it was literally like just desks. It looked like a crappy office. And right in the middle of the room there was a floor-level room. And it was right there. And Mickey Rourke would come there, and they would discuss things. And they had people there to train them. And I wasn't one of the trainers, but there was a time where he was in there. We were talking, and I can't remember exactly how one thing led to another, but we were showing him clotheslines, and you know, so it went from there. But I don't want to discredit him, but I don't think he took many bumps in the movie. I think they had a stunt double who did most of it.
Hey, well, that's cool. You show him a clothesline and had a bump as well. You know something?
Oh, it was super cool, and I'll tell you. I just think about this story.
Okay.
They actually filmed some of that at Jersey All Pro, like some of the I'm in a live action scene in the movie that they filmed at Jersey All Pro, and so Mickey Rourke was a character. You know, they were filming the scene, so here he is, Randy the Ram, with the long hair and the whole deal, and he was walking around the back, and I'll just never forget. Like I don't know if you know who this guy is, but the Grim Reaper. He's a very popular Northeast wrestler. And super good, just one of these guys that never made it big, but like super good. Everybody, you know, around there knows him, and he's had matches with, you know, anybody from CM Punk to, you know, Chris Hero, or this guy to this guy to this guy. He's wrestled everybody, and they all will say he's a good wrestler. Anyway, you know, he's a very New York, you know, like, who's this guy? You know, like, look at this guy, and like, so Mickey Rourke is standing in the locker room, like in his whole character, and like, you know, you're used to seeing, you know who these people are in the locker room,
yeah,
and like, you know, everybody's shaking hands, and like people are going up to Mickey Rourke, and they're, you know, trying not to be excited, and they're, you know, they're like, hey, you know, trying to, like, you know, fanboy out there, and they're all shaking his hand and like trying not to be marks, and like Reaper just like gives him like this like half handshake, and he looks at me, he's like, who the fuck is this? He's like, who's this fucking 80s loser? And I just remember like peeing my pants because I was like, dude, that's Mickey Rourke. And then even funnier, the same dude, and then he's He's like, man, they ought to put me in this movie. And they're like, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll talk to the dude. He's like, yeah, tell them maybe they need a character like I'm Mickey Rooney's brother. And I was like, you mean Mickey Rourke? He was like going to tell the guy he wanted to be Mickey Rooney's little brother.
That is funny how he said that about Mickey Rourke.
Dude, straight out, I swear to God, shook his hand, didn't even get a step away from him, just turned his head and looked at me. He's like, who the fuck is this 80s loser?
Hey, did Mickey Rourke hear that?
Probably. He was like, I had no idea that. I was like, oh, that's Mickey. I was like, it's for the movie, dude. He's like, oh, that's the guy's a car.
Oh, that is so funny.
Yeah, that's fucking great.
So, Bryan, where can everybody find you on social media if they want to follow you?
I don't know. I mean, you can Facebook me, right? I don't know what the URL is, but it's BRYANIDOL is the name you search. Pretty much maxed out on Facebook. I think I'm at 5,000. I don't know. I try to delete profiles every day. If somebody says something I don't like, I just delete them off Facebook now. I don't mean something towards me. If you just say something I don't like you could say things like Saved by the Bell was a bad TV show, and I'm going to delete you off Facebook because I need the space. So, if I disagree with you, you get the delete button.
Hey, Saved by the Bell was a cool show back in the day, man. You gotta like Zach Morris. Come on, man.
Dude, I had Screech on my show, man. He was on. He did an FTW show before, and we worked with PWS, and they had Mr. Belding. So, I mean, we're ultimate Saved by the Bell fans.
Oh, I am too. Speaking of Mark Paul Gosler, I met him at the the Lexington Comic Con, he doing this first, appearance and all that. And it was pretty cool, man. He's like a genuine, humble, down to earth dude.
Yeah, all those guys are pretty cool, man. Like I said, Screech was pretty cool. He's a little bit of a mess, but I liked him.
Would you ever wrestle Screech in the ring?
I wanted to, but actually my brother did. I was pretty jealous. My brother and Damian Darling wrestled Screech and Atu, and it was a good match.
Oh, wow. You had a brother that wrestled in the indies as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I never knew that. I learned something new tonight on this
Trained in Celebrity Championship Wrestling. He was trained by Hogan and Brian Knobs. And then, he was doing indie shows for a while, so we got him to do an indie show.
Oh, that's
into him at a bar. I ran into me and my old business partner ran into him at a bar, and we're like, "Yo, you want to still do this wrestling thing?" And he was like, "Yeah." So we're like, "All right, we got Screech."
Oh, that had been cool just to see that. That would have been pretty cool to see.
It might be on the internet, man. You might be able to find it. You might be able to Google it or search it on YouTube. I think you'll find it if you type in Screech Wrestling, maybe like FTW Wrestling Screech. I think it's there, man.
That's pretty cool. What else? And Bryan, thank you for coming on, out of your busy schedule to come on and share your story with me as well.
Yeah, no problem. I'm supposed to be teaching wrestling class right now, but instead I'm sitting here cutting phone interviews. So
hey, that's pretty good.
Those kids really appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, I know. They're probably hating you. They're like, "Who's that bastard you talking to?"
Yeah, whatever, man. But they got nothing to complain about. See, one of the kids just got signed today, so we know what we're doing over here.
Hey, that's pretty good as well. And speaking how you delete some people off your Facebook for stupid stuff, I bet you would never delete Holly.
Only if she says bad stuff about me, but otherwise, no. I would have no reason to.
All right. Like I said, thank you so much, Bryan, for coming on.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and everybody else, thank you for listening to Wrestle Popcast. And you can follow me at Twitter at WPopcast1, Facebook at Wrestle Popcast. And you can listen to my episodes at Hitting the Marks Podcast Network, podcastcity.net, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, any platform out there. Everybody have a great evening.